Since I was a kid, I had an interest in video games, and while I was playing, I wondered how they work. I was so curious with it that I was what made me decide to study software engineering. At my university, we don't have video game development classes, but they teach us to code, which is the first step. I have tried to learn my own with programs like RPG Maker because it was easier for me to work with sprites than with 3D models because I didn't have knowledge of modeling or animation. This time, I'm going to try to develop a first-person horror game for PC using Unity. I experimented with Unity before, so I know the environment, but I never gone very far on a project, so I'm going to learn the process. Anyway, I will be updating my progress and the things that I have learned, but for now, let me show you what I have so far. Let's talk about the project. First of all, I needed a story to be able to continue from there. It was difficult for me to think a story that I liked, and I have what is necessary to tell it in the game. The only thing what I knew was that I wanted it to be a horror story. I already have the idea for the story, but I don't want to talk much about it and ruin you the experience, so I will just say that the scenario is set in the school. I decided that it's going to be a first-person game because in my experience, I feel that it's easier to get into the role when you see it through the eyes. As I said, in the story of the game, we are in a school, so I needed the necessary assets for the stage. Currently, I'm also learning to model in 3D, but for practical uses, I'm using assets from Not Lonely. You can find the assets package in the Unity Asset Store as HQ Abandoned School. I will also leave the link in case you want to take a look at it. I will make 3D models only if it's necessary, but at the moment I'm working on the general mechanics of the game, such as the player controls and the interaction with the objects and the menus. I don't want that the game be very long, but long enough to tell the story that I have in mind and not complicated with unnecessary mechanics. I want to show you the mechanics that I was working on it. I have to say that one of the philosophies that I have is not to reinvent the wheel, so for the player controls I'm using the first-person controller made by Very Hot Shark. It is the best generic controller for first-person games that I saw. I will leave you on the description the link of the repository from GitHub if you want to try it. I wanted the player's camera looks like a VHS videotape as in Puppet Combo games, so I added the camera a VFX called Retro Look Pro, which have a lot of elements that you can use to simulate a retro TV. I'll also leave the link in the description. One of the most common things in horror games is the flashlight. I thought that we start the game without a flashlight, but eventually we will find it. I coded a script to interact with objects on the stage. The script, who is in the player controller, calculates the distance from an object to the player. And now, for the flashlight, we have another script which, when we get close enough and look at the flashlight, a text appears, and if we press E, the player picks it up. We have two flashlights in the scene, one on the scenario and another in the player controller, which is deactivated. The script has a function that says that if you are at the correct distance while you are looking at the flashlight and press E, the text and the flashlight who is in the scenario disappears, and the flashlight in the player controller that is deactivated, it activates. And with that, we simulate that the player grabs the flashlight from the ground. Then we have this door which has a code similar to the flashlight. It also calculates the distance between the player and the object. If we see the code, it has two conditions. The first is when the door is closed and we are at the appropriate distance. Then a text will appear, and if we press E, the door will change state to open and the text will disappear. In the case that it is open and the same conditions are met, a different text will appear. Fortunately, the assets of the abandoned school already came with the functionality of the doors, so it saved me the work of coding and animating. Now we have the game menu. It's not functional yet, but I'm working on that. Visually, the menu is a classroom with a television. As we can see, this television has a video that is rendered on a plane and a light with animation that increases and decreases the intensity to simulate that the television is on. This TV also we can find it at the Unity Asset Store. For now, that's all the progress that I have so far. The next thing I'm going to do is finish the main menu and other mechanics such as the key system and look at objects like Resident Evil Village style. As I said, I will be updating the development of the project in case you are interested. I also want to apologize if my accent or my English is not very good. It's not my first language, but I'm trying to learn. Whatever, thanks for watching and see you next time.